Hey everybody, today I'm talking about the Palaces of Carrara. Now this is a 2012 release board game by Wolfgang Kramer and Michael Kiesling. The game takes about an hour to play on average and accommodates 2 to 4 players. Now the idea of the game is that you are trying to collect different quality marble to build different buildings in different cities and eventually score those buildings and cities to score victory points to try and beat your opponent and win the game. So Kramer and Kiesling are very prolific designers, critically acclaimed in pretty much every fashion, made absolutely just blockbuster hit games. And this one maybe is one that's flown a bit under the radar compared to some of the others, but I think a big portion of that is that the game isn't widely available in England or the US. So, you know, the most copies you'd find in this game are generally in German, which is actually the version I have because, again, I couldn't find the English version. But the game is, you know, 99% language dependent or independent even. So you don't actually need the English rules once you know them, and you know, there's very little text on the components, so you know, you can get by on the iconography and stuff like that. Now, as I said, the game is a Euro-style game, probably a medium lightweight game, you know, not overly complex, but it still does have a lot of decisions going into it. And those decisions are built or kind of condensed down to 3 very simple choices you have to make each turn. You know, Kramer and Kiesling are very good at boiling down you know, generally quite involved games into very simple decisions, and this game does that very well. So the first decision you can make is to collect marble. And the way you collect marble is very clever. It's basically done on this wheel, kind of divided into these different kind of quadrants. And each of those different sections of that wheel is going to have a different price allocated to each brick type, because there are 6 different qualities of marble you can collect. The black being the worst quality, going to blue, to green, to red, to yellow, to white being the most, you know, the most prestigious type of marble you can have. And basically what you're going to do is you're going to either choose to pay the prices of the marble already on the wheel, or you can rotate the wheel and pay the new prices, because every time you rotate, all the values of each brick goes down by 1, eventually making some of the bricks free. And every turn you can basically buy as many marbles as you like from one of those different sections. But also, obviously, you've got to be careful, because when you buy and make things cheaper, you're also making things cheaper for your opponent. So you've got to kind of weigh that decision up in your mind, whether you're going to pay the prices as they are or rotate and make them cheaper, not only for yourself, but for your opponent as well. And the quality of that marble is very important, because that marble is going to kind of determine which of your cities you can build buildings in. Because like the marble with the 6 different quality types, there's also 6 different cities you can build in. Again, the white being the most prestigious and the black being the you know, the least prestigious. And the difference between the two is that the multipliers of those cities are very different, because if you choose to score a white city, for example, for every one of your buildings you've got in there, you're going to get the amount of brick you've paid times a higher multiplier than the lower cities. So, for example, the highest city is going to cost you obviously the more expensive brick, the white marble, but you're going to get a ×3 multiplier. Whereas if you just buy in the black cities, you're going to get a ×1 multiplier. So the difference is quite significant. Now that doesn't mean that you have to play exclusively a certain type of brick to build a certain city, because the way it actually works is you can build in a city with your lowest quality type of brick that you've collected. So say I had you know, 2 white bricks, a yellow brick, and a blue brick. Because the blue brick is the cheapest of the type of marble I've used, then I could only build in a blue city. So that's basically the first action. The second action is I've pretty much covered, is when you actually buy a city itself. So again, you're going to cash in those types of bricks and collect a city. And I think the city, so the buildings even, and there's a number of different types of buildings. I think there's 6 different types. So you've got your libraries, you've got, I think you've got like your barracks and stuff like that. And you're going to cash in the bricks and take one of these buildings off the board and place it in the relative city. But when you place it, you're not going to score anything immediately, because the third action you can take is to actually score something. And what you can score is you can score any of those city types. And say I wanted to score the I don't know, the black city. I would take all the all the buildings I've built of that type or in that city, I'm going to use the amount of bricks I've spent times the multiplier of that city. So as I said, for the black city, you're going to score ×1, and then you're going to get that many victory points. But 3 of the cities that you can build in are actually based on cash, because cash is quite obviously a very important resource in the game, because you need them to acquire more marble, because the marble is what you're going to need to get your points. So you're going to score multipliers based on coins on some of the cities, but some also, obviously you're going to score times on points. So not only can you score the different types of cities, which means you actually lock your opponents out of scoring those cities, because only one thing can be scored, or only one city can be scored, or each type of city can only be scored once between all the players. So there's a bit of a tug of war there as well, a bit of a push your luck aspect, or kind of a chicken aspect, because if you're both building up on white cities, for example, you can choose to score that city and then completely shut your opponent out of scoring it at all, which can be pretty devastating. But as I said, not only can you score cities, you can actually score different building types. So you could say I had a library built in the white city, a library built in the black city, a library built in the yellow city, then I can choose to score all my libraries and score all the multipliers that way as well. So even though you might actually lose your opportunity of scoring a city type, you can still get some use out of it and still get some return out of those building types. And the game, or the end of the game, is triggered on a number of things, because there are a huge stack of cards, or different scoring cards, that you can use. And there's going to be basically 3 different criteria that you're going to have to meet, or meet the requirements of, to trigger the end of the game. So the first one is based on, or normally based on kind of money or something like that. The second one is built based on the different building types, because when you kind of score one of your things, you're going to reap the rewards of, obviously not all the points and stuff, but every building type has a kind of like a little wooden token assigned to it. And then you're going to basically try and collect different types. So it might say maybe collect 3 different pairs, or 3 sets of unique tokens, or something like that. And that's going to be one of the trigger types. And also you're going to score endgame points based on that as well. And the third type is basically based on the buildings. So it might say have, 3 cities with 2 buildings in, or 2 cities with 3 buildings in. And again, you're going to score more endgame points based on that criteria. There's also an additional criteria as well that you can choose to add in or not. Now, before I go any further, actually, I should say that the game does come with basically 2 variants. There's the basic mode and the advanced mode. And the game does suggest that you initially play the game on the basic mode and ignore all the advanced stuff, because it comes in basically a sealed envelope. But personally, I would recommend going straight into the advanced mode, because there's a bit more, a little bit more, meat on the bones to the game with that, because again, you can add so much more variability with all the different setups and different endgame criteria. And you can also, build eight level buildings, which normally they only go up to 5. So you can cash in 8 bricks of a type and get these really powerful buildings, obviously because they're going to amplify your multipliers. But you also get a bonus tile as well that you can assign to your player board, which increases the multipliers that you get from cashing in or using one of your scoring opportunities. Something I should say as well, you only get 6 scoring tokens or scoring markers throughout the game. So you've got to be very careful about when you're going to use them and how you're going to use them. And you've got to be very careful about not being caught off guard as well, because a lot of the bricks and stuff, or your bricks and your tokens, are kept behind a shield. So you don't really know how well your opponent's doing in terms of the end game triggering. So it's very easy for maybe someone to try and rush the game a lot quicker than you are planning on to. And just before you know it, it can completely annihilated you on points and actually ended the game before you've actually had a chance to do anything. And that pacing is something very unique to this game. Normally games are divided into rounds, or have a certain amount of turns or something like that. But this one doesn't work like that at all. It's basically, as soon as those end game criteria are met and the person chooses to trigger that end of the game, then the game is going to be over at the end of that round. And that could be very hugely on from game to game, because some of those end game criteria are very kind of quite easy to achieve, and some are a lot harder, which means it will obviously be a longer game. But yeah, it has a very interesting pacing to it, and I love the way that it's boiled down to these very simple decisions. Take bricks, take a city, or sorry, take a building type or cash in something or score something, which is really, really cool. So I do love the mechanisms of the game. I love that. The resource wheel is absolutely genius. I love that. Just weighing up about, is it worth it making things cheaper for your opponent in order to get things cheaper for myself. You'll run out of money very quickly, so you're going to have to, at least focus on one of those scoring, one of those cities focusing on coins, because, halfway through the game you're going to run out of funds and you're going to need to score one of those cities to get a bunch of coins to continue or to keep you going in the game and to keep you involved. Balance of the game is it's wonderfully balanced, but again, something you have to be very careful of is being caught off guard, and the way that the scoring works makes the scoring seem very swingy, because obviously if someone's cashing in a city type and they've got loads of buildings there and they're scoring a ×3 multiplier, they can get like 30 points in one turn where you've got nothing, and they might score again and again and again, and they might even go around the board a whole time before you've scored anything. But that's something really got to be aware of, and once you've kind of played the game once, you can kind of or twice, you can get your head around how that works, and you've got to really focus on what your opponent's doing, because it is extremely relevant and you can't just be in your own bubble in this one. So that level of interaction is very nice. Again, mechanically very simple, works very well. Balance is excellent. The decisions boiled into very simple, concise decisions, but are still really interesting. Time investment is fantastic. I mean, a game like this to take, I think an hour at the most is really good. I kind of like the pacing of, as I said, there's not really any downtime to the game at all, because, again, very simple, straightforward actions that have no housekeeping involved to it. There's no fiddliness or anything like that, which is excellent. And replayability-wise as well, again, obviously include the advanced modules, which give you all the different cards to change the different setups. The replayability is excellent, because there's so many different endgame criterias. The variability is, limitless, really. And again, player interaction, as I said, very, very nice. Just that tension between the two. When are you going to score things? Are you going to score things before your opponent does? Do you want to get one of those 8 buildings so that you can score the better multiplier? And stuff like that. So there's a good tension in the game, and the interaction is good for a Euro like this that doesn't really have any direct confrontation. So there's still a good amount of interaction there. Aesthetically, I do like the way the game looks. It's very clean, very bright, very kind of pleasing to the eye, but it's very simple. There's not like amazing artwork or anything like it, but it's very clear and very pleasant. So no complaints there at all. And also component quality as well. The wheel works as it should, nice and smooth. There's no, everything works as it should. The shields are very nice. They look like big kind of palaces. All the different coloured bricks are very clear to differentiate. For someone who's colourblind, I can very clearly differentiate them all. The buildings all look, different. The different wooden tokens are good. So yeah, there's no complaints at all in terms of its component quality. And again, theme-wise, it's a very generic Euro-style game where you're collecting bricks to build buildings and score cities, as you'd expect. There's not a lot of theme here, but it does work fine. And setup and teardown time as well is actually really, really good, because again, just give the cards a shuffle, do the layout, and just the game comes with a an opaque bag with all the different bricks in, so you just have to kind of draw X amount and put it on the board, and you're good to go, really. So there's not really much setup at all. The progression of the game is quite nice, because you can actually choose to upgrade your buildings by say I built a building worth 5, but obviously there's the 8 buildings available. You can choose to kind of pay the difference to swap that 5 for the 8. So that's quite nice. Towards the end of the game, you can get better multipliers and stuff like that. So progression is quite nice. I love the way you've got to be a bit thrifty with your money and stuff like that as well. And scalability as well, it works really well. I mean, depending on, at 2 players it works fine, and at 4 players it still works absolutely fine. So no issues with scalability. And something I bang on about quite a lot is games that are unique. And to me, there's not really anything like Carrara or Palaces of Carrara out on the market. It's very different, and there's nothing in my collection that is quite like it. So, uniqueness is huge to me. You don't want just another generic, worker placement game or anything like that. You want something that's unique, and Carrara is certainly that. So yeah, overall, this is a really nice game by Kramer and Kiesling. I do really enjoy it, and I'm looking forward to playing it many more times. Again, I always bang on about how well these guys do at just simplifying, the choices of a pretty deep game, because there are a lot of things to choose. Are you going to score a certain type of building? Are you going to score the cities? Are you going to score all the seats that have a certain type of brick cost? And those are all really important decisions. But again, you're only going to make one of those three simple decisions: take bricks, take a building, or score something, which is just absolutely brilliant, and it's so easy to teach and digest. And this one is very kind of there's a very low barrier to entry to introduce this to new players, and it's a great introductory game for kind of someone who's kind of interested in trying Euro games but find more complex games a bit more daunting. So yeah, this one is very light, medium weight, and it's certainly not overwhelming, but still has enough going on in it to satisfy more saltier gamers, and that's something that's not easy to achieve. So definitely check this one out if you want something of that weight, something to introduce someone to, but still has enough going on in it. Again, unique, it's fun, it's fast, loads of replayability in it. The resource market wheel is excellent, and it's just good fun. Beware that obviously you're going to have to probably buy the German version of the game, and also that probably in the first few games you're going to have a unanimous winner who's going to absolutely crush you, or you're going to crush them because of the way the pacing of the game works, and you can really be caught off guard. But that's all part of the charm of the game, and I do really enjoy it. It gets a very good rating from me. I put it at 7.8, so just missing that mark of excellence, but who knows, with more plays I could take it up a bracket. So that is the Palaces of Carrara. Definitely check this little game out. So it's really enjoyable. I hope you've enjoyed this review. If you have, please hit like and subscribe to my channel, and check out my other videos too. You can also follow me on Instagram and support me on Patreon. I'll put the links below. For everyone else, I'll see you next time on Chairman of the Board. Bye.